When to know when it's ready, when it's time to pick your watermelon. I am not a watermelon growing expert, not yet. I will be one day, hopefully. I am constantly learning, but there's a few things I have gathered that I'm sure will help you maybe with knowing when to pick your watermelon. I'm just gonna show you, give you a little watermelon tour of my watermelon patches. This is a watermelon. I have to look back because I did buy like a few watermelon seed packs. I believe this is a smaller variety. I don't see any fruits on it yet, but I do see a lot of flowers. So I'm seeing a whole lot of little flowers. Every one of those little flowers is a potential watermelon, which is really exciting. So this particular patch is just getting started, and I'm hoping that once this one peters off back here, which it's giving signs that it's, you know, kind of on the outs, that this one will start picking up where that one left off. As I was about to walk away from this patch, I found the first melon of this watermelon patch. How do we know when a watermelon is ready to pick? And this is based on my novice to intermediate level experience growing watermelon. First of all, know the variety that you are growing. Now, this particular variety I know has the capability of getting up to be around 20 pounds. So just by looking at like this particular one, I would know that this is definitely not ready. Really understand the maximum weight or about the average weight of the variety that you are planting. That's going to give you a lot of guidance on knowing when to start kind of eyeing your watermelon. Look at the sheen, the gloss of the watermelon. If it still appears to be really, really glossy on the top, then it's definitely not ready to pick. When the watermelon is about all the way ripe, it's going to start losing that glossiness and become a little bit more matted at the top, and that's going to start indicating that it's approaching its full ripeness. The belly of the watermelon will start to transform from a like green bottom, as you can see here. This still kind of has like a lime green bottom. It's not as much of a contrast because of the variety that I'm growing, but it will transform from this kind of almost uniform bottom look to having a much creamier underbelly. So it's a little bit hard for me to kind of pick this one up and show you guys like that because it's attached to another watermelon. I'm trying not to damage them. The underbelly is significantly different in color, and the like green lines on this one are yellow underneath this particular watermelon, in contrast to the rest of it. The most telltale sign, in my opinion, the most like scientific indication that would really kind of tell you that either it's ready now or it's ready like in the next seriously like day, 24 hours to 2, is if the tendrils closest to the watermelon are brown. They look like little pigtails. Just think of that. The little pigtails next to the watermelon are brown. That means that melon is pretty much ready to pick. After you've done all of those assessments on your watermelon, you're looking at the size. Is it appropriate for that particular variety? You're looking at the belly of the watermelon, the tendrils, all of that. The last thing you'll want to do is just do the thump test. Now, the thump test is not going to be your first and foremost method of deciding whether that watermelon is ready. I would definitely make that be the last thing. So it sounds like it's good to go compared to the one next to it that's definitely not ready. That's the difference. That one is ready to pick, and I will also show you what happens if you leave the melon on the vine for even a day too long, which is why it's so important to watch these tendrils. This is what's going to happen. You're going to have more compost or chicken food if you leave it on the vine for too long. Right there. that is disheartening. And as I said, I am somebody who is, you know, starting to try to figure this out and understand when they're ready to pick and not. It drives me crazy to lose a whole watermelon like that, but it's not going to ultimately go to waste. It will give back to the garden in feeding our chickens and compost. So let's pick the one melon that is ready, because I have a lot of really fun plans for it. If I would have left this on for another day or so, I am confident that it would have exploded just like the one next to it that I just showed you guys. That's another thing to keep in mind, is if your watermelon is looking to be a really good size for that particular variety and all those tendrils are brown and you're seeing really heavy rain on the horizon and you're like, oh, maybe another day or so, just pick it, because you're really risking it taking on a whole bunch of water and exploding. So that has happened to me twice this year. Don't be like me and have watermelons explode, because then, you know, you can't eat it. And I mean, you could, I guess some people are comfortable with doing that, but I'm not going to eat it. So this one looks fantastic, and I'm hoping, I mean, look at this, hear this. I'm hoping it's going to be perfect. I'm just going to cut this one so that it's no longer taking any type of energy from the vine from the other ones, because this one's exploded. And I want to show you what this one looks like on the inside. As you can see, this one was sitting up right here. That was its bottom, so it's kind of hard to show the difference, but it has become really creamy, and there's no sign of like that greenery, just so you can see that. Try to crack into this. Trying not to get watermelon all over me. Okay, it smells really good. It probably just cracked, and I hate, and there's like no bugs or anything in it. Oh, I hate that just happened. Who knows when it cracked. But it will be going to my chickens, and they love watermelon. If you put a watermelon down in front of them, it's like the best thing ever, because it's got seeds in there. It's got sweetness and water, which is perfect when it's 95 degrees out. Let's see what this one looks like inside. All right, I got my scale and I'm gonna weigh this one. I have a feeling it's about 20 pounds, maybe less, because the one that was 29 pounds almost filled the sink. And this, when I was kind of rinsing it off, getting all that dirt off the bottom, it was nowhere near like being as fulfilling of the sink as the 29 pounder. So let's see how much this one weighs. I had a feeling it was definitely less than the 29 pound one, because it's just a lot easier to manage this watermelon. So now I know whenever I grow the Dixie Queen watermelons that we're going for a size roughly 15 pounds or so, because the 29 pound watermelon of this variety was just, it was absurdly large, and it was so watery, the flesh in there. Honestly surprised that it even got that big without popping open. The best way to cut your melon, or any type like butternut squash, anything like that, and keep yourself safe while you're cutting, is to cut a little bit off the bottom so that you've got a flat base. Oh, it kind of popped when I was doing that, so I'm hoping it's not too ripe. This whole thing just like popped open. Okay, so I'm gonna cut the top. I'm just gonna rip it open instead. So from what I've seen with this variety, it's not a crazy deep red color. I think it maybe could have gotten a little bit deeper, but I haven't seen this variety be darker than this, whether it was overripe or not. So it's good enough to work with. It's good enough to make some fun stuff with. So let's do it. I'm going to use 1/2 to make margaritas, some watermelon margaritas. So I'm just going to cut the rind off. And then the other half I'm going to use for a watermelon feta cheese salad. If you have any suggestions on watermelon varieties that you grow and you're like, this is the sweetest, best one, definitely drop a comment. I want to hear from you. Or any watermelon growing tips, let me know, because I am just trying to experiment with varieties that are really sweet. And like my favorite one, I will say the Dixie Queen isn't absolutely my favorite variety, just because I've not grown it to a point where it's been like insanely sweet. It's been okay. To make the watermelon juice for the margaritas, I start by taking all the seeds out of the watermelon. To make the juice, I just add the watermelon fruit to a blender and blend it up till it's silky smooth, and then I strain it so none of the pulp is left over. This is the final product, the watermelon juice. So now that I've gotten this all strained and everything, because it is 9 a.m., I am going to put this in the refrigerator until tonight to chill so we can make some watermelon margaritas with it. Before I started making the margaritas and the watermelon salad, I picked some fresh mint from the garden. You can also substitute this recipe for basil. Since we are going to be grilling today, I'm just going to make the margaritas outside. It's been a few hours, and the ice that I literally just poured in these cups is already starting to melt. I use a mason jar as my shaker. So I use a little teacup, like this miniature teacup, as my shot glass measure. I got this, I don't even know, so many years ago, and I found that if you fill it up to this little flower on the side, then it's the same equivalent as a shot glass, and it looks a little more classy. So I'm using this tequila, Bravo tequila. Truthfully, I'm not a super big tequila drinker, so I don't even know if this is good stuff, but I'm sure it will be sufficient. 1 shot of tequila, and then I'm going to do about 2 ounces of the watermelon juice. So just fill this up twice. 1/2 of a lemon. For this recipe, I also use a whole lime, and I prefer to use fresh lemons and fresh limes just to have a fresher flavor overall. Just a squirt of agave. You can use either a lemon or a lime to hydrate the rim of the glass, and dip your glass in sugar or salt, whatever you prefer. Very refreshing and tasty, and look how beautiful it looks. It's like a summer dream. Oh my goodness. Now on to one of my favorite new salads, the watermelon salad. I cut up about 3 cups of watermelons into around like 1-inch squares, and I also cut up about 1/2 block of the wet feta cheese into similar sized squares. That way everything could kind of be consistent, and just toss the feta cheese in there lightly. Then I dressed the salad with some lime juice, followed by fresh mint or basil, whatever you have on hand. And what really tied this all together was the dressing of balsamic vinegar, the reduced balsamic vinegar. Very, very tasty. And that is it. Super simple watermelon salad. So if you are growing watermelon, or perhaps eyeing a beautiful watermelon at the grocery store, consider making yourself some watermelon margaritas or watermelon salad. There's a whole bunch more watermelon recipes I need to get into, and I want to be more creative than just eating the watermelon by the slice, which is totally fine too, especially when you have little kids, because that never gets old. But I'm trying to get a little bit chefier here. If you guys give any of these recipes a try, definitely let me know. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And if you have any suggestions, recipes, anything like that that you want to suggest, definitely drop a comment in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, and until next week, bye.